Well, good morning. Well, this morning I'm going to kind of train my green beans and show them the trellis kind of thing. And then, now I know this is pretty simple, but there's people who, newer gardeners that might not know this. So we're going to train the green beans to the trellis, and then I want to talk a little bit about future garden plans. All right, let's do that. Well, okay. I got to put in one more cane. When you last saw these beans, 4 of the 5 seeds that I planted had come up. Well, now they're all up. So, and they've been up for a couple of weeks. It's been a little while. I don't know exact time. But, so, and as you can see, getting 6-8 inches tall, and they're starting to kind of look like they're wandering around on the end, like they're looking for a place to climb. So all I'm going to do is pull them over slightly. Doesn't need to be a lot, but where the top of the plant is touching the trellis stick. And just give it a little quick tie. And generally, you won't have to do another thing. They'll find that stick, they'll start curling around it, and you're there after that. Once in a while, they'll get up a ways and sort of wander off, and you have to bring them back in. But it's not a big deal. Now, I mentioned I planted 5, and at first I had 4 of them come up, and then a few days later, here come the last one. So I think the seeds I ordered from that particular supplier, and that was Territorial Seed Company, those all seem to have really good germination. Now I got germination pretty good out of everything, but we had it was a really good time for it, because it was right in the middle of a rainy period where it rained for days, but it was still nice and warm out. So those seeds stayed nice and wet, and they had a chance to germinate. Now, a lot of folks ain't going to go to this kind of trouble, but in my case, I've got one little bucket of green beans, and these are red noodle. They're the yard long variety. And I've got time to do it. And depends on your situation. If you've planted 40 foot of beans, no, you're not going. You're not going to sit there and tie each little stalk to a stem. But I want to keep it neat. I want to keep one plant per cane here. So that's what I'm doing. All right. Now this year, along with last year's experiences health-wise, have kind of got me to thinking in the future, what do I want to do for my garden? I'm not going to, the ceramic store is kind of a permanent fixture, it looks like. So, I'm going to have time spent there. And also, and that's not a full-time, but pretty close to a full-time job. And then, luckily, it's not a lot of work. But then on top of that, I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at my house. My wife doesn't cook. and it's kind of by claim, we've all kind of decided maybe that wasn't the best thing for her. Wasn't the best chore for her to do around the house. So I've always done that. And that takes time out of my day. Time you empty and load a dishwasher, and you cook a meal, and you've got to remember to get the darn stuff out of the freezer and get it thawed and all this. That takes up some time. So my garden time is not something I want to give up. But I've had to stop and think about, well, what are my goals coming up? What am I doing? And doing the containers for a startup this year has kind of caused me to think, you know what, the containers are easy and they're fun, and it doesn't take much time. You know, once in a while I sit here and do something like this for a few minutes, but for the most part, you know, I come out every morning, I water them, I pull the 2 weeds that there might be in these 5 buckets, and that's about the extent of it. So, and I'm of course thinking about the fact that I am getting older. Not only do I have other things to do, but you got to look at your time of life you're in and, hey, what am I going to really want to do? So what I think I'm going to do is this. I'm going to expand containers somewhat. I've always liked them. I've always enjoyed doing them, and it's worth doing. And see if I can't build a fixture. Something on the order of a stair step or a picnic table kind of thing to get them up and arrange them in such a way as they're easier to work on. Not that this isn't easy enough, but, you know, keep it simple. Then, and I'll want to put some kind of a patio or something under it so that I don't have to deal with the weeds growing up around the buckets during the year. Then, after that, I've kind of relegated the idea that I want to grow, I want to have some fresh things to bring in the house, put on the plate. And mostly it's just fun to do it, and I want to. But I don't want to produce a whole bunch of stuff and have to can things. I want to do a quantity where I can enjoy it, and when it's in season we can eat it, and then when it's not in season, you know, we're not worrying about it. And I don't have a whole nother job going around to can stuff. So I decided I think I'm going to move my garden from the existing spot. The beds there are a few years old, and they're not in as good a shape as they were, and they're not very tall. They're only 8 inches. And so I was ill-advised to start with, and I hate to admit this, I should have had enough sense. A guy told me, oh, 1x8, you know, 1x8. Well, that's what I did, and should have gone 2x. So some of them have kind of bellied out a little in the middle, and I'm just not happy with them. It's not very nice looking. I want to start from scratch, get beds that are up here, you know, 36 inches off the ground. So it's a convenient height to work at because, as I say, getting older, I'm not going to get any younger. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what am I going to want to handle? So I'm thinking that's what I want to do. I'll probably move it to the part of the yard on the outside of the fence by the alley. Now that's where the cane patch is. And the front part of that is all, there's nothing there. So it'd be an okay place. And like I said earlier with the containers, I'd like to do it in such a way that I've made permanent pathways around the beds, whether it's with pavers, concrete, I don't know, I don't care, but permanent walkways where I'm not weed eating around it. You know, I can just mow with the riding mower right up to the edge of it and then go on and I'm done. And so, you know, it's the kind of thing I'm going to do this long term. When I get a chance, I'll get started. I'll build one bed at a time probably, add on to it a little bit at a time. One thing I kind of think I'd enjoy for the paved part of it is one of these molds that make stepping stones. They're square, and it looks like a variety of stepping stones, and they'll kind of mesh together. You know, if you pull this, and what you do is you mix up concrete and probably put a little pigment in it, and then you shovel it into this mold just sitting on the ground, you know, no problem. And then after it sets up a little bit, you pick up the mold and move it, and you put it in the next spot. and they're somewhat flexible. They're kind of a rubberish thing. Uh, so I think that might be a good idea. If you have brilliant ideas on this, of what maybe it'd be fun to use as a bed, I've been thinking lately about galvanized stock tanks, because you can buy these stock tanks that are 6 foot long and they're oval shaped. Be real easy to work with, and they're a couple $100 a piece, maybe $250. But you know, that'd be a good thing to start with, maybe. And I honestly, with treated lumber, and yes, it's okay to use treated lumber. They haven't used anything toxic in that stuff for since the 60s, I think. But you still hear people say, "Oh my God, treated lumber, it's going to kill you." You can't do that. Yeah, you can. When I bought the lumber for those beds, and that's been several years ago, it had tags on it. It was yellow wood. It had tags on the end of the boards that said, "Okay for agricultural use." So I know it's okay. Well, all right. That's what I'm thinking about. Please leave comments. Something you want to see, maybe, or what you think you might build to be if you were in my shoes, what you would use to pave around your beds or to build your beds out of. Keep in mind, now I'm the lazy gardener, so let's not make it too work intensive. Well, all right. I want you all to have a quality day.